The school bus pulled away, and I watched my daughter's face crumble through the window. Not the normal kid sad, the broken kind. The kind that makes a mother's blood run cold. Then I saw him. The boy everyone called Mute Marcus. Standing at the bus stop, his Star Wars backpack hanging crooked, pointing frantically at something in his phone. His mouth moving in shapes my daughter somehow understood. What I didn't know, what nobody knew, was that this 12-year-old boy who hadn't spoken a word in 3 years had just recorded 15 minutes of footage that would destroy the most powerful woman in our neighborhood. And when I finally watched that video, when I heard what Margaret Finch, our HOA president and respected community leader, said to my disabled daughter, I realized we weren't fighting one cruel woman. We were fighting a system. My name is Rachel Torres, and 6 months ago I thought I had everything figured out. Single mom, sure. Working 2 jobs to keep our townhouse in Meadowbrook Commons. Absolutely. But my daughter Emma and I, we were a team. She was 10 years old, fierce and funny, with cerebral palsy that affected her legs and left arm. She used forearm crutches to walk, and yeah, some days were harder than others, but Emma never let it define her. She'd blast Taylor Swift while getting ready for school, practice her TikTok dances sitting down, and had this absolutely wicked sense of humor. Her best joke? Mom, why do I always win at hide and seek? Because nobody expects the cripple to be fast. Dark? Maybe. But that was my girl, taking her reality and owning it. I'd moved us to Meadowbrook Commons specifically because it was family-friendly. Manicured lawns, neighborhood events, a community pool. The HOA newsletter bragged about their inclusive values. Margaret Finch, the HOA president, had personally welcomed us with homemade cookies and a smile that should have come with a warning label. We're so glad to have diversity in our community, she'd said, and I'd completely missed the way she looked at Emma's crutches like they were a personal insult to her property values. Everything changed on September 14th, the day of the incident. The day Marcus, silent, invisible Marcus, became the bravest person I've ever known. Emma had been riding the school bus for exactly 3 weeks. I'd agonized over the decision. My car was barely running, and the elementary school was 6 miles away. Emma insisted she could do it. Mom, I'm not a baby. All the kids take the bus. So I'd walked her to the stop every morning, watched her navigate the 3 high steps with her crutches, made sure the driver, sweet old Mr. Patterson, knew to save her the front seat near the door. Easy access, safe. That Tuesday started normal. Emma kissed my cheek, her backpack covered in rainbow patches and disability pride pins. Love you, Mom. Don't burn dinner again. That was 1 time. 3 times. I'm counting. I watched the bus pull away, Emma's face in the window giving me our secret signal, 2 fingers on her heart, then pointing at me. Our nonverbal, love you. What I didn't see was Margaret Finch climbing onto that bus at the next stop. Marcus lived 2 houses down from us. 12 years old, selective mutism, usually walked with his head down and his phone clutched like a lifeline. I'd tried to talk to his mom once. She'd looked exhausted and apologetic. Marcus doesn't talk to people. Not since the divorce. But he's a good kid. According to what Marcus showed me later, through text-to-speech and shaking hands, here's what happened. Margaret Finch boarded at Sterling Street, carrying her clipboard and wearing her power suit like armor. She wasn't supposed to be on the school bus. But Margaret had convinced the school board she needed to observe transportation efficiency for some HOA safety initiative. Emma was sitting in her usual front seat, crutches stored safely in the slot beside her, when Margaret stopped in the aisle. Excuse me, sweetheart. That syrupy voice. That's a priority seat. Emma looked up, confused. I know. Mr. Patterson said I should sit here because of my CP. CP? Margaret's voice went sharp. Everyone has challenges, dear. But other children need this seat, too. You're not the only special one, Mr. Patterson called back. Mrs. Finch, Emma has permission to... I'm addressing the child, please. Marcus was 3 seats back. His phone was already recording. He did that sometimes, his therapist said, when he felt anxious. A way to feel safe. His thumb hit record the moment Margaret's voice changed. Emma's face was flushing. I'm sorry, but my mom said, your mother doesn't make the rules here, I do. Now there's a perfectly good seat in the back. Margaret gestured toward the rear of the bus, 5 rows away past 30 kids over shifting backpacks and extended feet. I can't walk that far when the bus is moving. I could fall, and this is the part that Marcus captured, the part that would later make the news. Margaret Finch leaned down, close enough that only the front section could hear, and said, "Then maybe you should have thought about that before choosing to be a burden on this community." The bus went silent. Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't choose. We all make choices, sweetheart. Some of us choose to overcome our obstacles. Others choose to use them as excuses." Margaret straightened up, her voice louder now. "Now move to the back, or I'll be having a conversation with your mother about whether special needs children should really be using public transportation." Emma gathered her crutches with shaking hands. "I know my daughter. I know exactly what happened next because she told me through sobs. Later that night, she stood up, alone, and tried to walk down that moving bus aisle. She made it 3 steps before her left crutch slipped on someone's dropped binder. She went down hard, her bad arm crumpling beneath her. Kids gasped. Someone screamed. Mr. Patterson slammed the brakes, and Margaret Finch said, "See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Liabilities. Marcus's video showed everything. Emma on the floor. Margaret's crossed arms. And Marcus himself, 12 years old, slowly standing up. He didn't speak. He never spoke, but he walked down that aisle, helped Emma up with gentle hands, retrieved both her crutches, and gave Margaret Finch a look that somehow contained more words than 1,000 speeches. Then he gave Emma his seat, the one right behind the driver, and stood in the aisle for the remaining 20 minutes. Holding the rail, his phone secure in his pocket, recording everything. Emma came home different that day. I knew something was wrong the moment the bus pulled up. Usually she'd wave from the window, take her time getting down the steps, chat with Mr. Patterson. That day she practically fell off the bus, her face blotchy and tear-stained. "Baby, what happened?" "Nothing." She pushed past me, her crutches hitting the sidewalk with angry clicks. "Emma, I said nothing!" She locked herself in her room. Through the door, I heard crying. Not the normal kid crying. The soul-deep kind that sounds like something's been broken that can't be fixed. I tried everything. Gentle questions. Her favorite dinner. Promises she wasn't in trouble. She wouldn't talk. That night, around 9 p.m., there was a knock on our door. Marcus stood on my porch with his mother, Sarah. Marcus held his phone out to me, his hands trembling. On the screen, text-to-speech read, "I need to show you something important." "Marcus?" "It's late," Sarah started. He shook his head frantically and pushed the phone into my hands. I almost wish I hadn't watched it. Almost. Because watching my daughter, my brave, beautiful daughter, being told she was a burden, being forced to walk through that moving bus, falling, and that woman standing there like Emma was an inconvenience to her perfect world, something inside me cracked. How long ago was this recorded? My voice didn't sound like mine. Marcus typed, "Today, 7:47 a.m. "And you haven't shown anyone else?" "My mom and you. I wanted to show Emma, but she won't answer my texts." Sarah looked like she'd been crying, too. "Rachel, I am so sorry. When Marcus showed me this tonight, We came right over. This woman, Margaret Finch, she's on the school board. She runs the HOA. I didn't know if anyone would believe. They'll believe evidence." I knocked on Emma's door. "Baby, I need you to see something." When Emma finally opened up, her eyes were swollen. She took one look at Marcus and started crying again. But different this time. Relieved crying. "You helped me," she whispered. Marcus nodded vigorously and typed, "She was mean. It wasn't right." The 3 of us watched the video together in Emma's room. Sarah stayed in the doorway, giving us space. Emma sat between Marcus and me on her bed, and I felt her flinch at every cruel word. When it ended, Emma said quietly, "She's really important. Mom, nobody's going to believe me over her." "Baby, she's right," Sarah interjected softly. "Margaret Finch has been HOA president for 8 years. She's Community Leader of the Year 3 times running. She sits on 5 different boards. I tried to file a complaint against her once. She had my son's therapy parking spot towed, and I got laughed out of the office. I looked at Marcus, still silent, still brave. At Emma, still broken. At this video that showed everything. Then we don't go to her boards, I said. We go to everyone. The next morning, I kept Emma home from school and called in sick to both my jobs. By 10 a.m., I was standing in Margaret Finch's immaculate driveway, Marcus's video queued up on my phone. She answered the door in tennis whites, her smile sharp as glass. "Rachel, what a surprise!" "Is everything all right with Emma?" "No, Margaret. Everything is not all right." I showed her the video right there on her doorstep, watched her face go from confused to calculating to completely controlled. When it finished, she sighed. "I see, and Marcus sent you this?" "He showed me what you did to my daughter." "What I did?" Her laugh was practiced, perfect. "Rachel, I understand you're protective, but you're seeing this through a very biased lens." That bus was chaotic. I was simply trying to maintain order and safety. "You called my daughter a burden." I said no such thing. She gestured at my phone. "That video is clearly edited." "You can't even hear my actual words clearly." "It's perfectly clear, to you maybe, but to anyone objective?" I was having a gentle conversation with a child about bus safety, and unfortunately, she fell. "Children fall, Rachel. It happens." Her eyes went cold. "Especially children with mobility issues who insist on using transportation they're not equipped for." My hands were shaking. "Emma has every right." "Of course she does. And I would never suggest otherwise." That smile again. "But between you and me, mother to mother, sometimes we have to make difficult decisions about what's best for our special children. Maybe Emma would be happier, safer, with specialized transportation. The school offers paratransit services. The school is 6 miles away. Paratransit picks up at 5:30 a.m. and gets her home at 6 p.m. She'd spend 3 hours a day in transit instead of 40 minutes. Well, if public buses are too challenging, the bus isn't the problem. You are." Margaret's expression hardened. "I think we're done here." "And Rachel? Before you go showing that video around, consider this. I have 32 years of community service and an impeccable reputation. You have a grainy cell phone video taken by a child with documented mental health issues." She started closing the door. "Choose your battles wisely." I went straight to Principal Hendricks at Emma's school. He was sympathetic. Concerned, even. He watched the video twice, his frown deepening. "Mrs. Torres, I'm horrified by what I'm seeing. Truly. But I need to be honest with you. Margaret Finch is on our school board. She approves our budget. And legally speaking, she wasn't acting in any official capacity on that bus. She was conducting an HOA safety review, an unofficial one. The school gave her permission to observe, but she wasn't representing us." He rubbed his temples. "What she said was cruel and inappropriate. But it happened between a parent, technically, and a student on the bus, not on school property. So you're saying there's nothing you can do?" "I'm saying it's complicated. I can ban her from future bus observations. I can have a conversation with her about appropriate conduct. But termination? Legal action? That's beyond my authority." He leaned forward. "However, I can document this incident in Emma's file and make sure her bus accommodations are ironclad going forward." It felt like nothing. Like words designed to make me go away. That afternoon, I called the HOA management company. Got transferred 4 times. Finally reached a bored-sounding woman named Patricia. "So you want to file a complaint against your HOA president?" "Yes. She discriminated against my disabled daughter." "Uh-huh. And this happened where?" "On the school bus, but she was acting as HOA president, so not on HOA property. Not during HOA business. Not related to any HOA violation or concern. She's creating a hostile environment for families with disabled children." Patricia sighed. "Ma'am, HOA boards are elected by residents. If you have concerns about Mrs. Finch's conduct, you can raise them at the next board meeting and request a recall vote. But personal conflicts aren't something we mediate. Dead end after dead end." That evening, Sarah came over with Marcus and printouts. "Lots of printouts?" "I did some digging," she said, spreading papers across my kitchen table. "Marcus wasn't the only one. Look, police reports, complaint forms, neighborhood forum posts, all about Margaret Finch. There was the family whose autistic son had a meltdown at the community pool. Margaret had them banned for disturbing other residents. The elderly man whose medical equipment van got towed for unsightly parking despite his disability placard. The lesbian couple who tried to hang a pride flag and received 17 HOA violations in 1 month. She's been doing this for years, Sarah said, but she's smart. She never leaves a paper trail. It's always verbal warnings, friendly suggestions, is weaponizing HOA rules against people she doesn't like. People she doesn't think belong, I corrected. Marcus had been quiet, as always, but now he held up his phone. There are more videos. We both stared at him. Kids at school. They send me stuff because they know I don't talk. They think I won't tell. He pulled up his camera roll. 7 more videos. Margaret at school events, community meetings, the grocery store. In each one, she was saying something cutting to someone vulnerable. A child with a stutter, a mom using WIC checks, an immigrant family speaking Spanish, always just out of range of official cameras, always deniable. Marcus, I said slowly, why do you have all these? I've been documenting her since she made fun of my speech therapy last year. Nobody believes. A kid who doesn't talk, so I decided to let the videos talk. This 12-year-old boy had been building a case for a year. We need to go public, Sarah said. The school won't act. The HOA won't act. But people, they'll act. I posted Marcus's video to Facebook at 11 p.m. that night, just our neighborhood group at first. Maybe 200 people. I captioned it simply. This is what the HOA president said to my 10-year-old daughter with cerebral palsy on the school bus yesterday. Watch until the end. By morning, it had 15,000 shares. By noon, it was on the local news. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters wanted interviews. Neighbors I'd never met knocked on my door with casseroles and outrage. Someone started a Change.org petition to remove Margaret from the HOA board. It hit 5,000 signatures in 6 hours. And Emma? Emma stayed home from school watching her own humiliation go viral. Mom, everyone's seeing this. Everyone knows now. Baby, that's good. People need to know what she did, but they're seeing me fall. They're seeing me cry. She was crying now. I'm not brave like Marcus. I'm just the disabled girl everyone feels sorry for. That gutted me. Because she was right. Some of the comments were exactly that. Pitying. Treating her like a tragedy instead of a person. But others were different. Other parents sharing their stories. Other disabled people saying this happened to me too. Teachers, advocates, lawyers offering help. Margaret's response came that afternoon via an official HOA email to all residents. Dear neighbors, I am aware of the video circulating regarding an incident on a school bus. I want to address this directly. The video has been deceptively edited and takes my words entirely out of context. I was expressing concern for a child's safety and suggesting more appropriate accommodations. As someone who has dedicated my life to this community, I am shocked and saddened by this attempt to damage my reputation. I have served as your HOA president with integrity and transparency. I will not be bullied by social media outrage culture. I look forward to addressing this matter at our next board meeting. With respect, Margaret Finch. The audacity was breathtaking. She was playing victim, and it was working, at least partially. I started getting messages from her supporters, older residents mostly, people who'd known her for decades. You're overreacting. Kids are too sensitive these days. She's done so much for this community. Maybe Emma should have moved. Like she was asked. That last one made me physically ill. The school board called an emergency meeting, required Margaret to temporarily step back from bus observations pending review. No apology, no consequences, just step back. Emma's nightmares started that week. She'd wake up screaming, tangled in her sheets, crying about falling and never stopping. She refused to get on the bus. Refused to go to school at all. What if someone says something? What if they make fun of me? Then you tell a teacher, teachers didn't help on the bus. Nobody helped except Marcus. She was sobbing now. And Marcus can't even talk, Mom. If he's braver than all the adults, what does that say? What could I say? She was right. I hired a disability rights lawyer named Patricia Chen. She watched all of Marcus's videos, took detailed notes, and gave me the hard truth. Legally, You have a case for disability discrimination under the ADA, but it's complicated. Margaret wasn't acting as a school employee or HOA official in that specific moment. She was a passenger making horrible personal comments. So we can't do anything? I didn't say that. We can file complaints with the Office of Civil Rights, push for anti-discrimination training, make noise until the organizations she's involved with can't ignore it. But criminal charges? Firing? That's unlikely unless we can prove a pattern of discrimination in her official capacity. Marcus has 8 videos. Patricia's eyebrows rose. 8 instances of Margaret Finch discriminating against vulnerable people? That's a pattern. We need to contact every person in those videos. Build a coalition. Make this bigger than one incident on a bus. That's when things got really interesting. Sarah, Marcus, Patricia, and I spent the next week tracking down every family in those videos. We found 6 of them. 3 were willing to talk publicly. 2 had moved away specifically because of Margaret. 1, the elderly man with the medical van, had passed away last year, but his daughter remembered everything. She made my father's last month's hell, she told us, tears streaming. Every day something new. The van was parked wrong. His oxygen equipment was an eyesore. She tried to fine him $500 for having a wheelchair ramp installed without HOA approval, even though it was medically necessary. We compiled everything into a formal complaint. 8 incidents, 12 witnesses, 3 years of systematic targeting of disabled, minority, and LGBTQ residents. We submitted it to the HOA board, the school district, and the media. Margaret's lawyer sent a cease and desist letter within 24 hours. Threatened to sue me, Sarah, and Patricia Chen for defamation, harassment, and malicious interference with business relationships. She's scared, Patricia said. Good, let her be, but I was scared too. Because the lawyer's letter mentioned my jobs, my housing, Emma's school enrollment. They were implying consequences. The next HOA board meeting was scheduled for October 15th, open to residents. The agenda included one item, discussion of recent allegations against board president. 100 people showed up. They had to move it to the community center. I'll never forget walking into that community center with Emma. She'd insisted on coming despite her fear. If Marcus can be brave without words, I can be brave with them. We dressed carefully. Emma in her favorite purple dress, her crutches decorated with holographic stickers. She looked beautiful and strong and so young. Margaret sat at the front table with 4 other board members, her posture perfect, her expression serene. She'd brought her own lawyer, a slick-looking man in a suit that probably cost more than my car. When she saw Emma, something flickered across her face. Not guilt, annoyance maybe. Like we were inconvenient. The board president, not Margaret, but a nervous man named David, cleared his throat. This is an irregularly scheduled meeting to address concerns that have been raised regarding Mrs. Finch's conduct. Mrs. Finch has requested the opportunity to address these allegations directly. Margaret stood, and I swear the temperature in the room dropped. Thank you, David. I want to begin by saying how deeply hurtful these past weeks have been. Her voice was steady, wounded. I have given 32 years to this community. 32 years of volunteering, organizing, improving our property values and quality of life. And now, because of one misunderstood conversation, I'm being treated like a criminal. She looked directly at Emma. That beautiful little girl deserves every accommodation. I never suggested otherwise. What I did suggest, out of genuine concern, was that the regular school bus might not be the safest option for her specific needs. That's not discrimination. That's common sense. Murmurs of agreement from her supporters. Furthermore, Margaret continued, I have serious concerns about how this situation has been handled. A minor's video, taken without consent, has been weaponized against me on social media. I've received death threats. My grandchildren have been harassed at school. This isn't justice. This is a witch hunt. She was good. I had to give her that. Then Patricia Chen stood up. Mrs. Finch, may I ask a question? I'd prefer to finish my statement. It's directly relevant. You mentioned Emma's specific needs. Can you tell us what those needs are? Margaret blinked. Well, her mobility issues. Her cerebral palsy. Can you describe cerebral palsy? It's a condition that affects movement. Did you know that many people with cerebral palsy are fully capable of using standard transportation with minor accommodations? Did you know that the Americans with Disabilities Act specifically protects Emma's right to access the same public services as any other child? I'm aware of the ADA. Are you aware that we've identified 8 separate incidents where you've targeted disabled, minority, or LGBTQ residents for discriminatory treatment? 8 incidents in 3 years, all documented? Margaret's lawyer jumped up. This is a witch hunt. Those allegations are unsubstantiated. They're on video, Sarah called out from the audience, standing with Marcus beside her. Marcus held up his phone, silent as always, powerful in that silence. We have documentation, Patricia continued. Police reports, HOA complaints, witness statements. Would you like me to present them now, or would you prefer to resign quietly? The room erupted. People shouting, arguing, David banging his gavel futilely. Then Emma stood up. "Excuse me," she said, and her voice was so small that people actually quieted to hear her. "Can I talk?" Margaret's face went pale. "Sweetheart, I don't think—" "You called me a burden," Emma said, louder now. "You said I chose to be disabled. You said special needs kids shouldn't use public transportation." Her voice cracked. "I'm 10 years old. I didn't choose cerebral palsy. I didn't choose anything except to go to school like a normal kid." Tears streamed down her face, but she kept going. "And Marcus helped me. Marcus, who you made fun of for not talking. He helped me when you wouldn't, when adults wouldn't. And you know what? I'd rather be disabled than be someone who's mean to kids who can't defend themselves." The room was dead silent. Emma sat back down, and I pulled her into my arms while people started clapping. Then cheering. Then standing, Margaret looked like she'd been slapped. Her lawyer was whispering urgently, but she wasn't listening. Finally, she stood. I think there's been a misunderstanding about my intentions, and perhaps I could have communicated better. Stop." The voice came from the back. An elderly woman standing with a walker. "Margaret, I've known you for 23 years. We've been on committees together, and I've watched you get meaner and meaner to anyone who doesn't fit your perfect little picture of what this neighborhood should look like." Another resident stood. "She tried to ban my nephew from the pool because he has Down syndrome." Another. "She reported my daughter's therapy dog as a nuisance animal." Another. "She told my wife and me that our pride decorations were inappropriate for a family." Neighborhood. It was an avalanche. Person after person, story after story. Margaret had been doing this for years, and everyone had stayed quiet because she was powerful, because she was connected, because who would believe them? Until a mute 12-year-old boy with a cell phone gave them evidence. The vote to remove Margaret Finch from the HOA board was 4-1. She voted against her own removal. Naturally, but it wasn't enough. She resigned that night, effective immediately. You'd think that would be the end. It wasn't. Margaret Finch didn't go quietly. She went scorched earth. First, she hired a PR firm. Within a week, op-eds started appearing in the local paper about cancel culture and trial by social media. Conservative news outlets picked up the story, framing Margaret as a victim of woke outrage for trying to keep a child safe. The death threats started coming to U.S. now. My social media was flooded with messages calling Emma faker, me an attention seeker, Marcus's videos, child exploitation. Someone egged our townhouse. Someone else left a threatening note. Disability isn't an excuse to ruin people's lives. Emma stopped sleeping, stopped eating. Her pediatrician diagnosed anxiety and started talking about medication. "I want to take it back," she told me one night, sobbing. "I want to delete the video and make it all stop. Baby, people hate us now. They hate me for being disabled and you for being mad about it and Marcus for filming it." She was hyperventilating. Maybe Mrs. Finch was right. Maybe I am a burden. I held her while she cried and hated Margaret Finch with a fury that scared me. But we weren't alone. The disability advocacy community rallied. National organizations reached out, offering legal support, media training, protection. A GoFundMe appeared, not started by us, to help with legal fees and raised $45,000 in 3 days. Marcus's story, the silent boy who became a hero, went viral in its own right. CNN interviewed him with his mom translating his typed words. His therapist said he'd spoken his first sentence in 3 years. I helped Emma. The school district, facing massive pressure, announced a comprehensive review of their anti-discrimination policies and mandatory disability sensitivity training for all staff and board members. Margaret was quietly removed from the school board, but Margaret wasn't done. She filed a lawsuit against me, Sarah, and Patricia Chen for defamation and emotional distress, claimed we'd conspired to destroy her reputation with doctored videos and false allegations. The legal bills were crushing. Even with the GoFundMe money, we were drowning. Patricia worked partially pro bono, but depositions, filings, expert witnesses, it added up fast. She's trying to bankrupt us into silence, Patricia explained. Classic slap suit. She doesn't expect to win. She expects us to give up. We're not giving up, I know. But Rachel, I need you to understand, this could take years. It could cost everything. Are you prepared for that? I looked at Emma, who was finally sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks. At Marcus, who'd found his voice by helping someone else find hers. Yes, the deposition was brutal. Margaret's lawyer grilled me for 6 hours, questioned my parenting, implied I was exploiting Emma's disability for attention, suggested I'd coached Emma to lie. Isn't it true, Mrs. Torres, that you've struggled financially? Yes, but... And isn't it true that you started a GoFundMe shortly after this incident? I didn't start it. Supporters did? How convenient. A viral video, a sympathetic disabled child, and suddenly you have $45,000. I wanted to scream. But Patricia had coached me. Stay calm, stick to facts, don't take the bait. Emma's deposition was worse. They brought a child psychologist who was supposed to be neutral but asked leading questions designed to confuse her. Emma, do you think it's possible you misunderstood Mrs. Finch? That maybe she was trying to help? She called me a burden. Are you sure she used that exact word? Or is that what you felt? Emma looked at me, confused and scared. It's in the video. The video that your mother has shown to millions of people without your full understanding of the consequences? Objection, Patricia snapped. Counsel is badgering a child. It was hell, but then the unexpected happened. 3 weeks before trial, Marcus's videos made national news. Not because of Margaret, because of what they represented. A disabled child documenting systemic ableism, using technology and silence as tools of justice. A major news magazine did a feature. The boy who couldn't speak, but wouldn't stop fighting. And in that article, they revealed something we hadn't known. Marcus had 73 videos in his archive. Not just of Margaret, but of various people in positions of power behaving badly toward vulnerable individuals. Teachers, coaches, store managers, police officers. 3 years of documentation, all carefully labeled and dated. I wanted proof, he typed for the interviewer. Because nobody believes kids, especially kids who can't talk, so I let the videos talk instead. The article went viral. Marcus became a symbol. Schools started teaching his methods in anti-bullying programs. Therapists used his story to empower other selective mute children, and Margaret's lawsuit suddenly looked very different. She wasn't suing a vindictive mother. She was suing a movement. Her lawyer called Patricia 3 days later. My client is willing to settle. The settlement negotiation happened in a sterile conference room that smelled like old coffee and desperation. Margaret sat across from us, and for the first time, she looked small, tired, her perfect armor cracking. Her lawyer laid out the terms. Mrs. Finch will issue a public apology and resign from all community positions. In exchange, all parties agree to drop current litigation and make no further public statements about Mrs. Finch specifically. No, I said immediately. Mrs. Torres, no statement preventing us from talking about ableism, discrimination, or our experiences. You don't get to silence us. Margaret's lawyer started to argue, but Margaret held up a hand. Fine. Reword it. She looked at Emma, really looked at her for the first